Hello everyone. This is my first video and I'm going to be talking about how I made these two dresses. One last dance ball overdress. LARP and LARP games, their skills and the world that they lived in. Kind of an unhelpful one. So you line everything up so it's about a lot of care about it. This is a learning process. Fill it out later. And this is Thursday. Either because they're in a high risk. Yeah, it was okay because I was friends, Romans, country persons, basically anyone who's turned up to this channel. It's fun. Some other materials to go with it. This was extremely springy. Lost their collective minds. I'm gonna have to call you back. Painted over friends, Romans, colleagues, buddies, pals. My flaw. Yes and no. Don't get me started. Downstairs on the sofa. Give the people what they want, Ash.
The Pilgrims, the American Revolution, the American Civil War, and the Wild West.
Don't worry about that. We're all friends of Dorothy. So I have a LARP game on Saturday. Wow, I'm way too depressed to be doing this. Launching into a new project.
We've been trying to reach you about your car's extended warranty. Or rather, falling snow. The bust shape would be more pronounced if the back... Tidy your damn workroom! Okay, we talk about costuming and live-action roleplay.
That's better. Very nice.
And your own flag. If you're new here, I'm Ash. Not trying to engage with actual trans voices. Well, there's a few things you can put on your face. Anglo-Saxons aren't real. We don't have time. Okay, well, here goes nothing. Friends, reptiles, fictional characters, I don't know. Happy New Year. Hello, friends. You don't always have to reinvent the wheel. Is this the video I plan to make? No. Is this the video I told you I was making? Also, no. My garden doesn't normally look like this. Welcome back to the workroom. I need a lot of colours. You only have yourself to blame. Then there was no lot for 3 years. Friends, reptiles, you've been sleeping. My host will say we can do basically craft like all of you. Where's the lot gone? Welcome to the Friends, reptiles, you watch the backboard. No, what the friends do? What's the first time I saw this?
Hello there. Bit of a weird video for you this week. The short version is I've been thinking about doing this for a while, and the long version is I've had 2 back-to-back LARPs, an extremely busy month. My sewing machine is broken. There's just a lot. The nature of YouTube is such that I think we only ever really hear from the massive success stories. Like when your business model is just get 1 million subscribers. That's not really helpful or replicable. I don't think there's a huge amount of actually practical, realistic advice for people who want to start a YouTube channel. And the flip side of that is that I think that the overwhelming majority of people watching YouTube don't understand what it's like running a YouTube channel. And between those two groups of people, I think you just have a lot of people on the internet who think that this is easy and fun and you're making lots of money, right? Well, I can say that it is fun most of the time. Well, okay, let's start at the beginning. So I started my YouTube channel on August 15th, 2019. Now, obviously, that is the date that my first video was uploaded, so I'd already been working on it for a little bit. I want to say I think that video took me like a month to create. Just to be clear, even at the time, I knew that video wasn't great. So I guess that's piece of advice number 1. Your first number, potentially big number of videos are kind of gonna suck, but you're not gonna get better at making videos without making all those videos, and you're not gonna know whether or not those videos suck unless you get feedback. The way you get feedback is you upload them to the internet and let people watch them. So just make the videos that you can make and then show them to people and accept that people are going to tell you that they're bad or they're just going to perform really poorly. That's just going to happen. You're going to have to deal with it. I'm sorry. There's nothing you can do. To date, so we are not quite 5 years in, and to date I have made 156 videos. I'm unclear on whether that includes the shorts and the lives. I don't think it does. We'll get on to those. My channel got monetized, which is to say at the time you had to hit 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours in a specific time frame to join the Google AdSense program, which is the thing where YouTube starts paying you for the ads they run on your content. To be clear, they run ads on your content anyway. You just don't get a share of the revenue until your channel's bigger. I know a lot of people were really concerned when YouTube changed their terms of service to say that like unprofitable channels could be removed from the platform. What they mean is if you are uploading loads of videos that they can't run ads on. So either there's some really dodgy stuff in your videos and advertisers won't touch them, or you're one of these people who's using it as basically a data repository and you're just uploading hundreds of hours of private footage or data encoded as video files, yeah, don't use YouTube as a cloud storage platform and you're probably fine. Unmonetized channels are actually profitable for YouTube. They're fine with it. But if you hit a certain threshold, you then can join the AdSense program, and once you do that, you can get a small share of the advertising revenue on your videos. So 8th of October 2021, just over 2 years in. At that point, I had released 77 videos, although gotta point out that 30 of those were that one Halloween where I made a video, like a 5-minute video every single day. Don't do that. Like, it was fun. I enjoyed it, but it didn't do anything for the channel, I think is possibly the nicest way I can frame it. It was so much work. I've seen a bunch of other channels, YouTube-focused channels, who talk about the fact that if you are consistently uploading every single week, you can reasonably expect to hit monetization at like 12 to 18 months in. I don't think I was too far out overall, but you got to frame that as that is still 12 to 18 months equivalent of a full-time job before you get paid. And then when you do get paid, to start off with, it's not going to be a lot. I haven't actually checked this. This is off the top of my head, but for the first year and a half, at least a year and a half of being monetized, AdSense only pays out when you hit $100 or about £60 GBP. The first year and a half of being monetized, I got 3 payouts. I was averaging about a payout every 6 months because I was earning about £10 every month. For the benefit of this video, I actually went through and did a highlights reel of my YouTube career, which is a very weird thing to do. The first video I had that, I don't want to say go viral, because in hindsight, like, this video has 25,000 views. At the time, to me, that was incredible. In hindsight, that's not a lot. It was a little baby pop-off, but that was my speedrunning getting dressed in 18th century clothing. It had all the ingredients, right? It was something fun and entertaining. It was a reasonably broad appeal. People who are not into historical costuming still like seeing historical clothing. This is a thing, 18th century is super popular anyway. And obviously it was responding to a video by a much more popular YouTuber, and it was then followed up by another video by a more popular YouTuber in the same category. And it was actually that second video coming out after mine, that's when I saw the big spike in views. It was actually hilarious because on that day I was in the Lake District and we'd gone to climb, I think it was Black Combe, and we were joking the whole way because it was a gorgeous day. It was unbelievably sunny. It's incredibly rare to climb Black Combe and not end up in clouds because it's just always miserable up there for some reason. But today, completely sunny, beautiful views, absolutely incredible. Loved it. And every time we took a break, I had to pull my phone out and look and go, oh my God, like, I've had 200 views in the last hour. I was used to my videos getting like 200 views over the course of the first 2 days. It felt like a big deal. In hindsight, it wasn't that big a deal. That video did a big chunk of the work to get me to the point where my channel was monetized. It wasn't monetized when I released that video. I haven't actually put down the dates of when I released that. It was a big component getting me across that line. The next video that did extremely well and sort of spread outside of my immediate subscriber base was my video about transphobia in costuming. That was a weird time. I am extremely glad I got paid for that video because that was a lot of work. That's kind of the opposite of the speedrun 18th century video in that it was not really that entertaining, extremely informative, very specific. It was not a video I made because I thought it would do well. It was a video I made because I thought it was important that it existed. And I'm obviously extremely grateful that people did watch it because the benefit here is that people hopefully learned from it. It was to my advantage that at that time the online historical costuming community was having a bit of a, how salty am I going to be about this? Am I about to alienate a whole bunch of people? Yeah, no, you know what? Let's just go for it. There was a bit of a social justice trend at that point. Like, people were very big on largely performative conservative social justice stuff within historical costuming. It certainly felt like at that time it was very in vogue to be seen to be doing social justice. And did I 100% manipulate that in order to make it so a whole bunch of people in the historical costuming community felt like they had to share my content, or they were going to like not be the most perfect social justice person in historical costuming? Maybe. That has very much died down now. It's nowhere near like it was in 2022. A bunch of really weird stuff was happening around then. Fun fact, in that video there's a whole bunch of like role plays of transphobic microaggressions that I have experienced, and a whole bunch of these were in a historical costuming focused discussion group, and a whole bunch of the people who had said those things left comments on that video talking about how like they valued this so much and a thank you for making such an important, valuable. I'm like, that was you! You're in this! The play is about you! But no, it was good. Like, I didn't expect that video to do well. I would have been fine if it... I would have been disappointed if it hadn't. But I'm mostly glad that people watch it, because I'm mostly glad that people get that information. That was not a video that was ever going to make me loads of money. I am very pleased that it has made me money, because God, that was a lot of emotional labour. If I hadn't been monetized, I still would have done it. And I didn't expect it to gain me like a whole bunch of new subscribers. It did gain me a bunch of like cool people on the internet I now talk to sometimes. Things go quiet for a little bit, and then we get the murder board video. This is the other end of the spectrum. This was a silly video I made because it was a thing I'd done. I thought it was fun, and then I was like, oh, I'll just make a video about it, because I'm consistently trying to broaden out my channel from just sewing. I'll get onto this a bit later. The murder board video broke containment. It was a great example of something that got a lot of views that didn't necessarily translate into a lot of subscribers. Subscribers that I did get didn't really want to watch my other stuff. This is an ongoing problem with YouTube, is that if you cover more than one very specific niche, and sometimes even if you do only have one very specific niche, not all of your subscribers are going to watch every single one of your videos. They just don't. And a big part of that is that most people, like the overwhelming majority of YouTube viewers, don't watch from their subscriptions tab. The majority of YouTube viewers go to their homepage and pick from what's been recommended to them, which is insanity to me, because 99% of the time I'm in my subscriptions tab working backwards chronologically. You know, I subscribe to people because I want to watch their stuff, and there are genuinely YouTubers that I like a lot that I watch every video they put out, even if I'm like not that interested in that subject matter, but it doesn't matter because I like watching you. Again, more on this later. So yeah, the murder board video was a weird one. It got a lot of views. It was sufficiently different from the rest of my content that didn't really translate into like a long-term benefit for the channel. Okay, Evermore Park. The Evermore Park video, which was not actually about Evermore Park, is hilarious when people don't get that. I thought I explained it, but never mind. Anyway, that video's had kind of two lives. It did reasonably well when it came out, at least by the standards of my channel, and then more recently it had a big spike of some description. I'm not really clear on what happened there. That second spike was when it broke containment and started getting out to non-LARP people, which has been very surreal, because basically for the first however many months it was out, it was doing regularly like okay, and I was getting lots of comments on it, and the comments were all like, I too have witnessed these things, timestamps, and I think I went to that LARP. My personal favourite comment that I've ever received. But in the second wave, which I think I've not got to the bottom of what happened, but it must have been something to do with Evermore Park itself, that people have been driven to it to have more Evermore Park related content rather than LARP content inspired by someone else's video about Evermore Park. This more recent wave of viewers, it's been really obvious that they're not LARPers, because the comments have shifted from, oh yeah, no, I completely empathise with these issues about LARP, I've experienced them too, to, this sounds terrible, why would anyone ever LARP? Which has made me think that I maybe need to redress the balance somehow, because now there's thousands of people out there going like, wow, LARP is an awful hobby that no one should ever do. Yeah, I need to fix that. This again was a little bit of a weird one to go mini viral, because I don't make content about LARP as often. While it works really well for for your channel to sort of hijack other people's success. So, you know, millions of people watch the Jenny Nicholson video, and I could like pick up on a small percentage of those people by making something that was like, hey, you've seen this video, do you want to see something very similar to it? But kind of putting your own spin on it. YouTube trend that's called fame jacking, where you basically like copy other people's stuff but make it your own. It's transformative, which means it's okay. I'm still unsure how much of a good long-term strategy that is, so I basically only do it when I'm really like, yes, this fits with the stuff that I already do. And the Evermore video was a really good example of that. The fact that it has now hit a whole bunch of people who aren't interested in costuming or LARP was unexpected and kind of interesting, but also, I don't know what you do about that. I don't know how I could have predicted that. I don't think I could. A lot of what happens with YouTube is out of your control and slightly inexplicable. So the next video that did incredibly well was the video on how to make the easiest tunic you've ever made. But that video didn't do well until the petticoat video had popped off. When the zero waist skirt that always fits video went properly viral, YouTube must have decided that that tunic video was the one of my videos most similar to the 18th century skirt tutorial and shunted people straight from one to the other. That's the only explanation I have. It super popped off only after the 18th century skirt that always fits had its moment. Having talked about the concept of fame jacking, and you see someone else's video that's done really well and you go, well, I could do that and make it a little bit more my own. That was 100% what was happening with that video. And if you look, because there's a couple of other videos that popped up around the same time, and we all did the exact same thing. We all did the same idea in our style and then used a whole bunch of the same keywords and titles, similar visual elements, so that basically the people who watched the first skirt that always fits video, YouTube would then immediately be like, well, this video is really similar to that one. So this is a double-edged sword. Overwhelmingly, more than any other video, the skirt that always fits has the most just really shitty comments. And this is something that I will 100% revisit later on in the video because, yeah, we need to talk about how YouTube viewers don't know how to act. It would be difficult for me to say that having a video go that viral was a great thing. That was the video that got me up to around about 30,000 subscribers from, I think I was at like 4 or 5. It's got hundreds of thousands of views. It's got thousands of comments. Not as many comments as it originally had because I have to moderate that video extremely heavily. It is still, almost a year later, consistently my biggest earner. The reason that I am now getting AdSense payouts every month is because of that video. The reason that I got attention from most of the sponsors that have approached me, I believe, is because of that video. Having said all of that, I now find that the number of views I get per video is usually not that great compared to the number of subscribers that I have. If I compare myself to similarly sized channels that grew more gradually, video per video, they're getting more views than I am because a whole bunch of people subscribed on the basis of that one video and are not actually interested in anything that I make that isn't relating to that specific video format, subject matter. Unclear. I can also look at the other people who did similar videos at the same time and see that their videos performed about comparable to mine, but they seem to have got, you know, bigger subscriber numbers and bigger repeated followings out of it than I did. Now, there is basically nothing I can do about that. And, you know, I can already tell that some of you are already in the comments writing something about how, like, oh, you shouldn't compare yourself to others. You have to. In YouTube, you have to look at, okay, maybe you don't, but if you want to be successful, you have to look at what other people are doing and you have to look at how it's working for them and you have to go, hey, why is it working for them and why is it not working for me? Why has this worked for me and it's not worked for other people? And sometimes you literally cannot answer that question and it's just like, it's the algorithm. I don't know, man. I don't know. The flip side to that is sometimes you can look and go, okay, they've done this differently. That has worked better and that is something I can imitate. And sometimes it's like, yeah, I can see why this person appeals more to this audience audience than I do. And that's very much where I'm coming from. Like, I'm not comparing myself to other people because I'm like, oh, they're just better than me, I'm terrible. No, I'm really good at what I do. I want to be the best at what I am doing, and that means I need to learn from everyone around me. This is a marketing exercise. Yeah, we're getting corporate about this shit. Ultimately, I think part of the problem with the skirt that always fits video. So I saw the original and I was like, that's just an 18th century petticoat. I make those all the time, but it's not. So obviously the original video is making a specific pattern, which is more complicated. It's got more stuff going on and all that. But at the same time, I was like, you can just make 2 rectangles. It's a basis of so many LARP costumes. Like, let's do that. That's in my niche. I can do this. However, that is a video that has been popular with old lady sewing YouTube. You get demographic information on your videos. I'm quite pleased in that a lot of sewing YouTube, I know from what other people have said, skews like heavily towards women. I have a bit more, it's nowhere near 50-50, right? But I have a higher percentage of male and not specified gendered viewers watching my videos than the average sewing YouTuber, right? My demographic also skews young. So most people who watch my videos are under the age of 40. The demographic information on that 18th century petticoat video does not reflect that trend. It skews older and it is more heavily female. And I also think it's landed in that side of the demographic that is kinda more conservative. And that combination of things, the fact that I edit my videos in a very specific way, and we'll get on to that as well. This video is going to be so long, oh my god. I edit my videos in a very specific way that doesn't gel so well with that audience, and also just by the nature of who I am, a whole bunch of those people don't want to watch my stuff. It's actually incredibly funny when you get people leave like incredibly positive comments on the zero waste skirt video because they're really happy and they're really excited, then they go off and watch my other stuff and completely flip when they realize I'm trans. I've had someone lose it, the fact that I used the words homosexual audacity. I've had someone write like a 2-paragraph rant because I mentioned in a fabric haul video that I wanted to make a pride flag, and like they don't feel they should be exposed to this. If you're like, the sewing community is really open and inclusive, and that, no it's not. No it's not. The majority of people who are into sewing are not people who want to hang out with me. And that's fine. In my heart of hearts, I don't feel like my audience is the same as Bernadette Banner's audience. Not really. Like, there's some overlap. The core of that audience isn't the core of my audience. I don't want to do lovely aesthetic cinematic stuff, and I don't want to do like the people who are into like Nicole Rudolph and want something really borderline ASMR. Don't get me wrong, I love Nicole's videos. I could fall asleep to them, but that's that vibe. And I think people sometimes come to my videos also expecting that vibe. You're not getting it. I don't make videos like I'm going to appeal to that audience. I make videos in my head. The people who I'm trying to be is not Bernadette Banner and Nicole Rudolph and Shannon Makes and all those people. It's like Nerd Forged. A little bit of Crescent Shea, a little bit of, there's a cooking channel called Anti-Chef. I'm very like, I want to figure out how to do that, but for sewing. So basically you end up in this weird scenario where YouTube is recommending your content to people who watch. And I can tell because YouTube tells me your viewers also watch, and it's Bernadette Banner and Shannon Makes and Rachel Maxey. And I'm like, cool. I am tonally very different to many of those channels. I am a lot visibly queerer than most of those channels. I don't think that I'm actually aimed at the same audience, if you see what I mean. Where I really want to go from here, obviously, is that it's going to happen again. I'm going to see another video and go, oh, I could do that idea, but my own way. I did it last time. This is an ongoing thing. It's just fun. It's good for the channel. Riffing off other people's ideas is really cool and really interesting, and I absolutely love it when people do it from my stuff. Adore it when people see my stuff and go, okay, cool, I reckon I can do that better. Better is fine. If you make a video going, Ash LG did this, and I think it sucked and I'm better at it than you are. I respect where you're coming from. I would love to see it. I mean, please be polite to me because my feelings get hurt extremely easily. If you genuinely rock up and are like, I think I can do this better than you, that's not rude. That's not inappropriate. That is ballsy as hell and I'm here for it. But I would just really like at this point for something that I've made off my own back, one of the big costumes that I've done, one of the LARP videos, going to get people into LARP. I swear to God. I keep trying and it keeps not working, but I'm going to get people to want to LARP somehow. I would just really like one of those to go viral. Like something that is 100% me from scratch doing something I think is good. One day. So that was a lot of rambling, but what are actionable activities? What is my actual advice? If you or someone you know is, for example, considering starting a YouTube channel in the broad umbrella of sewing, ? My first takeaway is that making it in the sewing space is actually really, really hard because sewing doesn't do that well on YouTube. Let me just unpack that a little bit because people are going to be like, oh, but this does super well. These channels are really popular. Let's just explore a little bit. Almost none of the channels people point at when they talk about this being a popular niche just do sewing. Basically none of them, in fact. A lot of them don't even do sewing most of the time. A really great example of this is Karolina Zabrowska, who does comedy content and history entertainment. If you look at her viewer numbers, the sewing videos don't actually do that well in comparison to the other stuff. Also, people don't know what they mean by a sewing video, and that actually covers a whole bunch of different things, and it's rare that you get one person who's interested in all of them. So is it a entertaining video about historical costume that doesn't actually translate into giving you guidance on how to make a thing? Or is it, you know, I'm making this thing and you're following along, but like a lot of recipe channels, I'm enjoying watching you make the thing. I'm not going to attempt this recipe. I like to dream that maybe I would, but in reality, I'm not going to sink all of this time and effort into making this incredibly elaborate thing. I'm just going to enjoy watching you make it. That's a whole category of sewing YouTube. Unfortunately, a whole other category of sewing YouTube is tutorials. Like actual, here is step by step how to make this thing. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of people who want entertainment find the tutorials and are like, this takes too long, I don't understand what's going on, I'm not enjoying this. And people who want tutorials find the entertaining stuff and are like, this is not enough detail, I want to make one of those. You haven't given me any instructions. Tutorials are also really tough because people don't want to just watch tutorials all the time. They only want to watch a tutorial if they're going to do that thing. There's a very fine band of aspirational tutorials, and I think the ubiquitous, here is your basic guide to hand sewing video hits that niche. People will be like, oh yeah, I absolutely believe that I could start sewing. Let me watch you do this thing. Yeah, I could do that. But if you make a tutorial on how to make an 18th century gown, only people who want to make an 18th century gown are going to want to watch it, especially if, like a lot of costuming tutorials, it's like an hour and a half long. How many people is that? How many people is that at any given time? I also think that the hand sewing for beginners guides and that are not ultimately doing so much for you because people are going to watch that, follow you for that, and then you can only do that once. You can go on to be like, and now here is an elaborate project that I sewed, and they're like, well, I'm not actually interested in that. Here is some historical knowledge. Well, I'm not actually interested in that. I liked that you did a how to do these 5 basic hand sewing stitches videos. It's not really feasible for most people to churn out new tutorials every week. And it's also not feasible to churn out tutorials for every single thing that you ever make. Like a step-by-step, here is how you do this. But also, just because you have made a tutorial doesn't mean that everyone who wants a tutorial for that specific thing will like your video. This is why there are so many knitting channels who just do, this is how you do this stitch, this is how you do this pattern, this is how you hold the yarn for Fair Isle, this is how, because there's lots of popular channels that do that because all of them do it in a slightly different way. Any individual learner is going to bounce off 2 or 3 of them before they hit one that works. We don't have that kind of density in sewing because sewing is just too multifaceted a practice. How do you fit a princess seam? Well, depends. What are you doing? It's not like, oh, how do I do brioche stitch? Like this. It's always going to be the same. But it does mean that if you have managed to create one of the only, or what people think is one of the only tutorials on a specific subject, about half of them will watch that and go, I couldn't follow this. They're going to act like that's your fault instead of, it's not really anyone's fault, but if my tutorial doesn't work for you, that means that my tutorial doesn't work for you. Doesn't mean it's a bad tutorial. A lot of people don't understand that. And by a lot of people, I mean the majority of people don't understand that. I have found that a significant percentage of sewists need a lot of hand-holding, and I'm not the right person to do that. There's a significant percentage of people who cannot follow things like do the same thing again on the other side, or draw a rectangle to these dimensions based on this measurement, or apparently type how much is 15 centimeters in inches into Google. It just tells you. You must know how to use a search engine because you've used YouTube. So yeah, as soon as you get into doing tutorials, people will complain that anything that you do that isn't a tutorial isn't a tutorial, and people will complain that your tutorials don't work when what they mean is this doesn't provide the information in a way that's digestible for me personally. You will also get people who, because you have posted one tutorial on one sewing related thing, will then demand that you make tutorials for every single other thing that they want to sew. Someone literally told me that I should make a tutorial for curtains. I've never made a pair of curtains in my life. What about my channel made you think that I knew how to make curtains? But it's all sewing, right? So you might... No, that's not how it works. So fundamentally the problem with sewing as a niche is that it's not a niche. That brings me up to my next kind of general piece of advice, which is that everyone will tell you that you need to be consistent. You need to find your niche, you need to stay in your niche, you need to be consistent. Yes and no. So what is good? If all of your videos are appealing to the same audience, then a higher proportion of your subscribers will watch all of your videos. I know full well that there are people following me for the sewing content who see the LARP videos and are just like, I'm not interested. Being able to post consistently, again, is really, really good. Nothing will do more for just your numbers than regular uploads. Honest to God, people do not care about quality as much as they say they care about quality. You can hit a certain bare minimum, but remember that there is a whole genre of YouTubers out there making bank by sitting in front of a camera and just talking. There are people doing that twice a week to millions of subscribers, and that works for them. If you can sacrifice quality, level of detail, complexity, whatever, anything other than like your own health and sanity, but if you can sacrifice the quality of the video to get it out on time so you can get another one out on time the next week and so you can get another one out on time the next week, you should do that. And it's kind of horrific to me that I'm telling you that you should make worse videos more often and you will do better on YouTube, but it's true. That works. I'm sorry that that works, but that works. The flip side of consistency is that I think everyone gets told to like pick a niche and stay in their niche, and you don't want to diversify too much. But I genuinely think that a lot of costuming YouTubers trap themselves in this space where suddenly they have to sew a new thing every single week. You can't do that. I'm gonna stop you now. That is never happening. Even if you are doing this full time, which I'm optimistic that at the beginning you won't be, because I hope that you have some other income coming in. You're gonna need it. More on that later. You are not sewing a new garment every week and editing that video. I can tell you right now that's not gonna happen, ever. You need to have something you can do when you're not sewing. You need to have the flexibility to abandon projects for as long as you need them. I am now at the point where I will not announce a damn thing until it is nearly done. I'm not telling you what costumes I'm gonna make until they're finished or nearly finished. I will tell you individual videos that I want to make, but you'll get them when I'm ready, and I already have to be working on them. Big part of that is because I need to be able to step away from things when I need to step away from them, not put external pressures on myself to complete things that I'm not into at the moment. content. If you want to make a sewing focused YouTube channel, whether that's you're a cosplayer or it's historical costuming, or you want to make sewing tutorials, or you want to just do like, here's me making stuff for my wardrobe, whatever that is, you need to have a second thing that is related, that is way easier for you to do. The truth is, at any given point with 2 days notice, I can probably bang out a talky video about fantasy costuming or LARP. Maybe it's a haul video. Haul videos are such easy content, and I can see why people get sucked into just doing them all the time. That's also unsustainable. Don't do that. But whenever I spend a lot of money on stuff, I'm always like, cool, make a video about this. It's not very hard and it will claw back some of this money. Not very much of it, but you know. Also, people love them. Equally, being able to dip my toe into doing like other crafts. I know that if you like sewing, you've probably at least dabbled with something else at some point. So I love just being able to go, cool, we're doing a different craft now. If you enjoy watching sewing, you're going to enjoy watching another craft. If you do sewing, you're potentially going to be tempted into wanting to do this other craft. It's an exploration together. At the moment, my channel is primarily focused on LARP costuming, which means that we talk about LARP and we talk about sewing, but we also like loop in other crafts that I'm using to make the LARP costumes. If at some point I wanted to pivot and make this channel mainly about, I don't know, knitting and embroidery and handicrafts, I could do that because I've left myself that space. I've kept my niche broad enough that I can do all these things. Really hoping to get to a point where I can bring in more. If you like LARP, you may be also interested in cooking over a campfire. It's not going to be a regular thing, but like once or twice, let's do that. You need to have a common thread. You don't need a box. You shouldn't put yourself in a box, because if you do, you're going to really struggle to get out of that. The main way that you do get out of that, ultimately, is the big dirty secret of YouTube that we don't talk about, which is, doesn't actually matter that much what your videos are about. People are here for your personality. That does mean that when your videos are not doing well, it's because people don't like you. That's really hard to deal with. It's not necessarily, sometimes it's a comment on the quality of your videos, but once you hit a certain threshold, and it's not a high threshold, people are returning and watching based on how much they vibe with you as a person. I do this with other YouTubers I watch. There are other sewing YouTubers that I watch and I go, I'm not enjoying this. And I like sewing, but I'm not enjoying the way you present sewing. So I guess we're going to move on. That's really tough to deal with, especially since the version of you that makes it to the internet is not necessarily the true version of you. Like, there's a lot of stuff that I don't communicate, but I don't try to have like a fake persona online either. At the same time, it does mean that when people leave comments criticizing you personally, which they do all the time, that's pretty challenging to deal with. It's not actually a critique of the way that you make videos. It is 100% a critique of you as a person. So I guess now we need to talk about the big elephant in the room, which is that if you don't like having unsolicited commentary on everything that you do and everything that you ever create being relentlessly criticized and being repeatedly told by people who know less about this than you do what you should be doing, you should not have a YouTube channel. At smaller numbers, it really wasn't that bad. In general, people were pretty chill because just not enough people saw it. Prior to the 18th century skirt video, negative comments that I got largely came from either random dudes who'd wandered in from... Hello?
I'm so sorry.
Yes.
Bro.
I'll go back to filming. Speaking of internet personas, I don't use my talking to my husband voice on YouTube. Negative comments on the LARP content usually tend to be cis-het white dude bros who've wandered in from other nerd spaces. Usually either the history crowd, by which I mean they can tell you a lot about 20th century military hardware and literally nothing else, or they're just some dudes who LARP a lot and therefore they know everything there is to know about LARP, and how dare this twink tell them that their hobby has problematic aspects. Those guys are really easy to ignore because I have a lifetime of ignoring mediocre men, and also they're not very good at this. So the Hobbit video sometimes literally just got comments where people were like, you're stupid and you should kill yourself. I'm not taking that personally. That's the dumbest thing you could possibly have written. I'm actually offended you put no effort in to your mean comment. So that stuff, doesn't really bother me. Equally, prior to meteoric success of the 18th century petticoat video, and still kind of ongoing, but they're like so small in the noise now, you would get the occasional like quite transphobic comments. But the problem there is that transphobes overwhelmingly are really stupid. They're really obvious and really bad and not offensive because they're just saying completely inane things. You know, oh, I don't think my daughters should be exposed to this. Cool. That sounds like a you problem. Hide user from channel. If you didn't know, YouTube's comment moderation is genius. You can just delete someone's comment, but the much smarter thing to do is you just hit the button that says hide user from channel, and they can keep watching your stuff and they can keep commenting, and at that point no one except them will ever see any of their comments ever again. But you still get all the views and all the engagement, and they think you're seeing their comments. I could have hidden any one of you watching this and you wouldn't know. If you're a nice person who comments nice things, I can assure you I probably haven't. If you comment things that are either I'm not offended by them, but they are offensive, and as such I don't want other people in the comment section to be seeing them, because yeah, I police my comment section because other people read that. I want people to come into my comment section and talk to each other, because aside from anything else, I know for a fact that I have a lot of queer and trans followers. Like, I have a really high percentage of queer and trans followers. You'll need to talk to each other. It's on me to make the comment section as safe a space as I can for that to happen. If you leave comments that are in any way transphobic or offensive, you're just gone. There's no three strikes, there's no checking, there's no ignoring the comment section. If you come up in my moderation queue and your comment is inappropriate, you're gone. But largely those two categories of people don't affect me personally. The problem came with the 18th century petticoat video, because at that point we hit a category of people I can only describe as miserable old ladies. And I'm generalizing, but based on display names, profile pictures, choice of language, they were overwhelmingly older women. It's led me to believe a couple of things. One, a whole bunch of people genuinely are incapable of thinking of you as a person if they haven't literally met you. Potentially even if they have. There is a whole slew of people who just think it's okay to write comments in your comment section for you to see that talk about how annoying you are, what a bad job you've done of this video, and how they can't understand what's going on or what you're saying. You're all gone immediately. You don't come into my house and talk to me like that. Absolutely not. People, again, largely miserable old ladies, say horrible things about my voice and the way that I talk. They criticize the way I dress. They criticize my tattoos. They criticize the language that I use, which I'm happy to be corrected if I say something that isn't right or is inappropriate. But some of them are just, you know, mad that I'm British and I don't have an RP accent. They're fine with posh British. It's almost like people are insanely classist. Oh, they get upset when I swear. They get upset for all kinds of stupid, petty little reasons. The only ones that I clap back at, the only people who I wind up are the people who whinge when I use centimeters instead of inches. You need to figure that out on your own. That is such a mind-bogglingly silly thing to get upset about. How have you got this far in life? But they also are going to sit there and tell you that the choices that you made were wrong. This tutorial is never going to work for neurodivergent people. Well, I'm neurodivergent and I made it. That's what works for me. It's almost like all neurodivergent people aren't the same. People absolutely lose their minds because I have background music on my videos and it's not like coffee shop piano. Do you know how much I have to listen to the music that I use on my videos? A lot. I'm going to pick music that I like. That's not for everyone. Great, that doesn't mean it's wrong. I get a lot of complaints that I talk too fast. It's got absolutely nothing to do with that. And I know for a fact it's got absolutely nothing to do with that because I don't get complaints that I talk too fast on these videos where I'm ad-libbing. I only get them on specific videos, and it's because I haven't left gaps in between sections. People do not clock that they want a pause. They just go, well, you must be talking too fast. They literally don't understand that I'm speaking slower because I'm reading from an auto cue than I do normally. Go and watch my videos where I'm like making full eye contact the whole time. It's because I'm reading from an auto cue, and when I'm reading from an auto cue, I actually read slower because I have to keep pace with the auto cue. I can't modulate in the way that I do off the cuff and ad lib. I edit very tightly so I don't leave gaps, so people go, you must be speaking too fast. They're wrong, but it's still really annoying. You may also notice in the videos where I ad-lib, I stumble over my words a lot. I have a lot of problems that, hello, undiagnosed autism, probably should have seen a speech pathologist a long time ago. It's all a very long-winded way of saying the people on the other side of that screen do not think about you as a person and have sometimes absolutely no compunctions in just being incredibly mean for no reason. I mean, at this point, I do have to say, yeah, sorry, I have tea now. At this point, I do have to say, none of the individual comments hurt a lot. The volume is tiring. But also, I'm in my mid-30s and a moderately successful neurodivergent person. I have had more or less a lifetime of people saying shitty things about me and not caring. If you don't have that practice, YouTube's gonna suck for you. I know the way a lot of other YouTubers deal with this is they just don't look at their comment section. And as previously stated, I'm not willing to do that, but it's something to bear in mind. If you are interested in starting your own YouTube channel, you got to decide to what extent you're going to clean your house, because it's not a fun job. Which wraps around to my main piece of takeaway advice for dealing with the comment section. If someone is critiquing any part of your video or you or anything, is this something that is actually wrong? Are they complaining about me showing my tattoos? Go away. That's not a problem. Are they complaining about my voice? I don't care. That's not a problem. That's part of who I am. If you don't like it, you shouldn't be here. You need to go. Are they complaining about the quality of the sound? Okay, yeah. That is a technology problem. That is an editing problem. That is something we can maybe do something about that would actually improve the quality of the video for everyone. With the caveat that if the person in your comment section then tells you what is wrong and how to fix it, they are almost certainly wrong. Since we're on this, let's talk about equipment and stuff. Sound is usually the big thing that a lot of YouTubers don't get right straight away. Having an external mic is basically mandatory. And I hate to say it because with smartphones now, the barrier to entry is so low. It's so easy to start a YouTube channel. I started out with very inexpensive lav mics, and I'm still using the same audio recorder. Don't need fancy stuff. I mean, I say that. This is a fancy lav mic now. I upgraded to a fancy lav mic. You might not want to do that. Lav mics break. Eventually they break. You might not want to invest in this. Don't need cordless ones. You just need pockets and a thing that you can clip into. You can even plug this into your phone. I can't because I have an iPhone, but if you have a normal phone with a normal jack, you can plug it into your phone so you are recording audio and the visual at the same time. But you need to have good quality sound. You can get away with moderately terrible video quality. And when I say moderately terrible, YouTube has done experiments where people asked for 4K videos and they gave them 1080p ones instead, and they could not tell the difference. No one complained. High quality footage is nice to have, but high quality sound is more important. Also, you need way less equipment than you think you do. I've seen people who are like, I want to start a YouTube channel, so I'm going to need an external mic and a recorder and 2 cameras and tripods and lights. And I'm like, no, you don't. You need a £6 lav mic and your iPhone and some kind of stand for it. And that's it. Go with that. Buy the 2 cameras and the light when you have a track record, when you can prove that that's going to actually add value to you. Because also, if you haven't started filming, you don't know what you need or want. I've actually got studio lights and I really want to use them, but it's taken until now for me to realize how I want to use them and how they would actually be useful and actually help, because I don't have a studio to use studio lights in. But looping back, in the early days of my channel, a lot of people were like, hey, your audio's not very good. Because it wasn't very good. And I was given about 12 different explanations for what was definitely wrong and I definitely had to fix, and that would make my audio quality good again. None of them were correct. None of them were correct. In particular, the number of people who were like, hey, you need to normalize your audio. I don't think any of you know what that means. That is not the magic button that makes the audio good. Okay? Normalizing your audio just means that it compresses the sound wave a little bit. Unless you are another YouTuber, you're looking at the equipment I'm using, you're looking at the editing program I'm using, you have experienced the same ones, and you're like, hey, have you tried this? You're probably wrong. You just are. You don't know what I'm doing. You don't know what I'm working with. You don't know what's going wrong. You just know that something is wrong. So I guess if you're watching this and you're like, how can I leave constructive YouTube comments? And it's like, you can say, hey, your audio quality isn't that good. Is there a way you could improve that? If you go, your audio quality isn't that good, you need to normalize your audio. No, they don't. You don't know that. You've just heard that somewhere, that that's the thing that you should do. My favorite one is when people go, you need to normalize your audio in videos where I have, which is basically all of them, because you should do that. Basically everyone does that on all of their videos. That doesn't fix 90% of the things that people think it fixes. Anyway, and my final piece of advice is you're going to have to figure out what other forms of social media you can tolerate interacting with. And that includes, unfortunately, YouTube Shorts. They have made YouTube Shorts better, but fundamentally they're kind of a nightmare. They fixed a lot of the early problems that people had where they would show up in the same metrics as your long form videos, and so they would just throw all of your metrics wildly out because they were so different. They fixed that. They now don't show up in a whole bunch of stuff. But at the same time, people don't watch your shorts and then go and watch your long form videos, which means that you get subscribers who have just subscribed to you for your shorts. They don't want to watch your long form stuff at all. Flip side of this, obviously, if you already have or you want to have TikTok, Instagram Reels, make a YouTube channel just for shorts. That's viable now, and just cross-post across all of them. I find Instagram tolerable. I've given up on TikTok. I can see a future where I go back to TikTok, but basically all of the problems that I have outlined with comment sections on YouTube, times that by 100, and that's TikTok. No one on TikTok has any patience, any social niceties. There's no consistency with your audience. People don't want to see cut down versions of your YouTube video. They want to see stuff that is good in its own right within the space of 60 seconds or whatever. That's not where I've been at. I know how I would do TikTok if I was going to go back to TikTok now. Old school LARP TikTok content, getting into character and just doing trending sounds and nonsense like that. I don't have the time and energy for that. I'd have to be doing this full time to even consider doing that kind of thing. But like, it takes so much time to make short form videos that if you're making long form videos anyway, unless you can like repurpose the long form videos into the short form videos, there's no point. That's not popular. That doesn't do very well. It's a different medium. YouTube mixing up shorts and long form videos isn't good. And I would say pick one and just do that one. Don't cross the streams. Instagram people are a bit more tolerant of the idea that your reel might be a promo for your podcast or your YouTube channel or your blog. TikTok absolutely is not. So for the final segment of this video, I actually want to talk about my process, because I think you have to go through all of the steps to realize how long it takes as one person on your own with a full-time job already doing YouTube in your spare time, just how much of your spare time is going to end up being eaten by YouTube. Starts with an idea. Ideas are not something I ever really struggle with. I know that is not true of everyone. What I would say is that if you want a YouTube channel, like come up with your idea of what you want your YouTube channel to be about and sit down and start writing ideas for videos. Not titles, not detailed stuff, just like I could do a video about this. If you want to post weekly, I need you to get to 80 to 100 ideas before you can go, yeah, okay, I should start a YouTube channel. Because I see so many people who start a YouTube channel with like 6 ideas and they do their 6 ideas and then they stall out for 4 months because they did their 6-part series on how to do this one specific thing, and now what? That doesn't work well. At any given time, I have a rolling list of things that I want to make. I have the next couple of months roughly planned. It never works that way, but I like to have the next couple of months just planned out and like, oh, I could do this, I could do this, I could do this. And then I have in the back of my brain a sort of porridge of stuff that I'm like, I want to make this, I want to make this, and I want to make subjects, not objects that I want to make and then make videos about. I want to make a video about AI, which sounds really bandwagony, but trust me, I think this video about AI would actually be like good and within my niche. But it's a lot of work, so it's on the back burner. It's a different kind of... At some point, I'm going to do a whole video about the second knitting machine that I bought. Like, this is all in the back of my head chewing. So a lot of the time, I'm just like either inspired to work on a particular idea or something has happened that makes a particular idea that I had more zeitgeist. And at any given time, I might drop everything and pick something else up. setup. That's the way I work. And I know that a bunch of other YouTubers do not work this way. So before you even start, that's it. You need an idea. There's usually like a planning stage. So you now need to like flesh that idea out. So let's use the Curtle video that is forthcoming as an example. I needed to perfect my Curtle pattern. Then I was like, okay, I need to make one step by step and film all the steps. Do I want to like do that more than once? Do I only want to make one? What fabric am I going to get? Do I have it? Do I need to order it? The flip side to that for a more talky video might be, what is my thesis? What am I trying to prove? Do I need to do research? Do I need to look into some other stuff? You kind of just have to build it out. And at that point, either you start making the object or you start researching and writing a script. If you're making an object and filming it, you write the script afterwards, or at least I write the script afterwards. Once I have all the footage I have, I then write the narrative that explains the voiceover of what I'm doing. If I'm doing a talking video, I write the script and then sit down and shoot it in basically one go. And I have different setups for both of those things, and I use slightly different, like there's a slightly different workflow, and this is like the real kicker of doing both talkie videos and sewing videos, is that you need to have a very wide skill set of stuff that you can do. Like I have to be able to set up with lights and camera and the auto cue and read off an auto cue, but I also have to write a good script. I also have to be able to research. I also have to then figure out how to make that visually interesting. But I also need to know how to get clear shots of the steps that I'm doing, but also aesthetic shots of the steps that I'm doing. Use a lot more cinematography. I need to think about, am I filming a tutorial or am I filming a cool, look at the things that I'm making, come along with me kind of a video? You kind of have to have in your head what you want this video to be from the beginning, or you're not going to get the footage that you need. I'm reasonably okay at writing scripts. It takes a few hours, but not a million years. Generally, I'm quite concise in my filming when I sew, so I don't like to, and this is something that has taken years to get there, but I film as little as I think I can get away with, which is still more than I'll use in the edit. Filming slows sewing down a lot, so I try to film less. On the grounds that I don't need to film myself sewing every single seam on the machine, because I'm not going to cut that into the final video, because then the video would be 2 hours long. Also, you can't tell the difference between me seaming 2 bodice pieces together and 2 skirt pieces together from most camera angles, so there's no point. The flip side is every time I do a specific technique or a different thing, ideally I want that from multiple angles, so I might have to like film myself doing one eyelet, change the camera angle, film myself again, change the camera angle, get a long series of me doing a bunch of them so I can do a time lapse or a smash cuts, whatever. There's a lot of thinking that happens through the whole, you don't just like film it and then dump it into the editor and make sense out of it at that point. You have to have in your head what this video is going to feel like. I play very fast and loose with this, but it is always something that I'm conscious of what kind of footage am I getting of what things, and what can I get away with not filming because it's quicker. Then we hit file management round 1. You will spend a lot of time copying files backwards and forwards. So I have a camera that takes SD cards, I have my phone, I have the audio recorder. I try to keep as on top of things as I can of transferring stuff onto the computer. I have 2 separate 1 terabyte external hard drives for all of the footage that I have collected over time. That's a lot. Remember also that on top of gigabytes and gigabytes of footage, if your footage is sufficiently high quality, optimistically it should be, in order to edit it, you're going to have to render proxies. So we should get into like the editing stage. There are loads of really good, there's at least 3 really good free editing softwares. I used to use HitFilm Express, which was fine, kind of basic, very beginner friendly, not a lot of audio control. I'm now using DaVinci Resolve, which is the one most people tend to go for, and I can see why, because it has a lot of functionality. I think if you are brand new to editing and you've never touched an editing program before, DaVinci Resolve would be intimidating, because even in the free version, you can do color grading, you can do a lot of stuff with audio, but also in DaVinci Resolve, you can just ignore most of it. Your mileage may vary. Pull all the footage and the sound into DaVinci Resolve. If I need to render proxies, which I do for my iPhone but not for my camera, I need to do that. That's going to take hours. The proxy files are about 10 times bigger than your original video. Also, and I found this out the hard way, it goes much faster if you are not reading and writing to the same drive. That is why I have 2 external drives as well as my computer. I don't want to talk about it. You don't need that, but if you don't, you just need to sink more time into waiting for the proxies to happen. Usually overnight, right? Then I need to add all of the microphone audio audio to the clips that I was wearing a microphone on. Again, DaVinci's really good for that. With Hitfilm Express, I was having to do the claps because I don't have. Actually, people who've not studied film know that. You know the clappers at the beginning of like old Hollywood films? That's what that's for. The audio and the film is being recorded separately, and the clapper is so that you can time the visual clap with the clap on the sound on the audio track, so you can line up the audio and the video all together. That's what that's for. I had to do that in Hitfilm Express. I don't have to do that in DaVinci Resolve because DaVinci Resolve can just look at the waveforms and line them up for you. Thank you, technology. And then after that, you have to normalize all your audio, then you're into the editing. Editing takes a long ass time. There's basically no two ways around this. It takes an extraordinarily long time. There's no right way to do editing. Again, if you want to start a YouTube channel, what I recommend you do is you find what are the YouTube channels you really like. Not even necessarily in your same niche. In fact, I think like it's really fresh and interesting when people look at channels that are not in their niche. Like I said earlier, there's some cooking channels I really love, and I would love to take some of that energy into sewing YouTube. I think that would work really well. No one's really doing it that way. Find some YouTube channels you really love and watch their videos, and don't just watch their videos. I want you to go shot by shot, like you're doing a film studies essay. How long is this shot? What is the angle? What can we see? Is it clear or is it blurry? What is the shot next to it? What is the shot before it? What's the sound doing? What are the colors like? Break down exactly what is happening in every minute. Like, is it really quick and really dynamic? Is it very slow and meditative? Is there tracking shots? Are they using static images? If they're using static images, are they just there? Or are they inset? Some people do like a slow zoom or a slow pan on a static image to make it look more dynamic and more interesting. What are they actually doing in the editing? And then can you turn that into general principles to bring into your own stuff? It's really hard. That's a really difficult thing to do. Editing is really slow and really boring and quite hard. Over time, you will develop a style. In the early stages, learn from other people as much as you can. Then you have to render your video, which doesn't take as long as rendering proxies, but still takes a while. And then you have your final video file that you can upload to YouTube. And you'd think your job was done now, but no, my friend, it is not done. Uploading it to YouTube, in and of itself fine. It goes through a variety of checks. You don't have to do anything with that unless it flags something. But you do have to write a description and a title. These are how people are going to find your videos. They need to be good. Do you like writing copy? Have you written advertising copy? That's your video description. It's a whole other skill set. You need a thumbnail. I'm terrible at thumbnails. I know that for a fact. Graphic design is not my passion. YouTube has recently introduced a feature where you can upload 3 thumbnails and it'll test them for you. This is something people used to do themselves, is that they would change the thumbnail on a video a couple of times. So over the first like 24 hours of its life to see like which one performed better and which one they were to settle on, because it's really hard to know what a good thumbnail is. YouTube's now integrated that into its own tool, so you just upload 3 thumbnails from the beginning and it picks the one that it thinks is the best. What I've learned from this is that I genuinely am really bad at coming up with thumbnails, because it's never the one I think is going to be the right one that is the one it goes with. But that's good, that's fine, it's helping. I hope you like coming up with catchy titles that are going to draw people in, and descriptions that have lots of SEO, search engine optimization words in them, and thumbnail graphic design that is good and appealing and good. There's so much work that happens after you upload a video. But then you've done all of that. Your 3 YouTube thumbnails are ready to go. Your description, courtesy of ChatGPT, is ready to go. You've picked a title that you think it's probably going to work. It's on trend with there are trends in titles. I don't know if you've noticed, but there are trends in titles. And then for most people who are monetized, what happens is that you leave it up for 24 hours unlisted, so you can watch it if you have the link, but no one outside can find it. That is the point at which I give it to my Ko-fi supporters and close personal friends to be like, hey, it's here, go watch it. Because frankly, I might as well. It's just going to sit there for 24 hours anyway, because a lot of the background checks on like copyright and ad issues will come up in the first 24 hours. So that's a good thing. So anytime people are like, oh, you can get my videos 24 hours earlier on my Patreon, that's what they're doing. They're monetizing the time that they wouldn't normally be able to. It's good. It works for everyone, right? And then it actually goes live, at which point it's time to cross-promote it on Instagram and on Facebook and TikTok if you're on TikTok, and anywhere else that you normally cross-promote your videos, because you should probably be cross-promoting your videos just in case. If you've got to the end of that and gone, hey Ash, that sounds like a really long and involved process with a lot of different skill sets in it, Yeah, it is. Whew, well, I think I've kept you all hanging long enough. It's been a long video. It's been a long run. Like I said, we're coming up on 4 years. I have been monetized for a little over 1,000 days at this point. Let's talk numbers. So in total, of all time, I have made £3,703.34 in YouTube AdSense revenue. Somewhere in the region of £2,500 of that is just the 18th century skirt video. Ko-fi, over all 4 years-ish, it's been around because I think I started it more or less at the beginning. The entire time in Ko-fi, I have made £3,235 minus PayPal fees. I probably could figure out what that is altogether, but that involves exporting way too many CSVs, and I'm not doing that. I already had to do that for my taxes, which I got to file this year for the first time. Sponsorships and promotions, which in general, sponsorships have not been kind to me. I've had a lot of interest, but people either bail when I tell them how much money I want, or when they clock that the 18th century skirt video is abnormal and not what my videos normally do, or they just want me to promote like dietary supplements that I'm not taking that, and I'm not telling you should buy them if I'm not taking them. Anyway, in total, from sponsorships and promotions, things that people have paid me to make videos or promote products, that is £1,315.13, which means in total, over my entire YouTube career of around 4 years, I have made £8,253.47, or, to put this in perspective, a little bit under 4 months' salary at my regular day job. Over 4 years, buying all my own equipment and supplies and doing way more than a full-time job worth of work. It's a good thing I enjoy this, isn't it? Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video. We'll be back to your regular, scheduled, entertaining content very, very soon. Quick shout out again, I'm going to be at Worldcon Glasgow this year. Be cool to see people. I don't expect... The Venn diagrams are small, the overlap is tiny. But if you're there, say hi. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to keep the YouTube gods happy. Follow me on Instagram to see pictures of my cat. He is being heinous and staying out till 1 AM. We don't have a cat flap. Someone has to wait up to open the door for him. And down in the description box you can find a link to my Ko-fi page where you can make a one-off or recurring donation to support this channel and maintain my sanity as I continue to pour all of my free time and money into this project. Ko-fi supporters get early access to all of my videos, the occasional extra sneak peek, potentially more stuff in future. I'm working on it. I couldn't do what I do without their help. Dream big, and I'll see you next time.